Now, something that's been on my mind lately is who the worst character in Smash Ultimate is. I know from time to time again, the discourse has gone around where people say that it's Little Mac because he has a bad recovery and no air game, or that it is Ganondorf because he is so slow and has a bad recovery, or that it's Piranha Plant because, well, it's Piranha Plant. I asked Twitter who they thought the worst character was, and they gave a lot of different opinions on who it might be. But with that said, enough goes to show that there might not be a definitive.
Why did that
He
hit?
went. Yeah, he's dead. Well,
Kyle, you just got edge guarded by Little Mac.
Still be going now, but saying that Jacka is definitely in trouble. It's going to send them off. A pot snipe, baby, sends him right down. The jugger's going. He'll be able to air dodge back in, but now it's going to reach the ground, and Jacka is not making it easy this thing.
Wow, he didn't even need to do that. He just said, get out. He just get lost. I'm not dealing with you anymore.
He just drizzled a little bit of honey on top. You got to respect.
Taking first blood in this first match.
Brown is back. I thought that was gonna spike for a second, but I forgot that it was spike. Very good counter coming out from Kirby Kid. Very explodable recovery, and I did not know how that hit just now.
Yeah.
Airs coming out.
On stage, just immediately grab him. Yeah, this is the okay. Already knew. He's like, I don't want to do it.
That's right there. It's just so dangerous. Once he gets off stage, it's just gonna be so dangerous when he get back. So this is gonna be probably Kirby Kid's goal to like getting off stage.
Yeah, the name of the game is off stage. Punishing off stage, punishing, not letting turn center stage. That's gonna be the news.
Wow, here we go. Oh, we got to go really low for that one.
Yeah, the one time, he's he opened it.
No, wait. Oh my god, Kirby Kid. That was so mean.
That actually got.
After watching several VODs from a lot of different matchups with these characters who could be deemed as the worst character in the game, Chrom probably has some of the saddest results as of recently. When the game came out in December 2018, Chrom was thought to be one of the best characters in the game, even surpassing the character he echoes off of Roy. Chrom had a setup called a Chromicide, which still works to this day, but it was heavily nerfed in patch 2.0 since Chrom would always die second, no matter what. This caused the last stock scenarios against Chrom to be very scary, as the combo can be started from a nair close to the ledge or even a nair from across the screen. Regardless, this was a huge nerf to Chrom, and it even made his up B way less consistent, where people have a tendency of falling out the move now very frequently. So even with that slight nerf, you're probably thinking, okay Goblin, yeah, he got nerfed, but he's literally Roy, and Roy is one of the best characters in the game right now. While you are almost right, a lot of those similarities are actually what makes Chrom worst and Roy better. So the biggest thing that needs to be pointed out when it comes to Chrom, besides the giant elephant in the room that is his terrible up B that we'll get into shortly, is his air acceleration. Without being too much of a Smash nerd, basically it just means how long it takes you to reach your max airspeed, and Roy and Chrom both have some of the worst air acceleration in the game. This means basically that they can't really control where they drift too much without pressing a button that can shift their drift, and wherever they're drifting to, they're drifting like a truck. This makes calling out linear approaches from both Roy and Chrom very easy, and being able to tell their drift when they get back to stage. This is actually a hindrance to Chrom due to his sword having no sour spot or sweet spot. His whole character is supposed to space, while also being an aggressive and fast swordsman, but his air drift forces him to play very similarly to Roy, which focuses Chrom to play a lot more disciplined and neutral, limiting his approach game significantly. If Chrom had the air acceleration of a character like, let's say, Marth, while also being a fast faller, he would be a significantly stronger character, but there still lies a big problem that we'll get to. Another big flaw with Chrom's consistent sword is the consistency in his sword. Not having a sour spot actually limits the amount of kill confirms that Chrom has. Given that Chrom has a jab that can combo off of people hanging on the ledge that Roy does not, and that he has a Nair 1 into S smash which Roy also does not have, even though it's most likely a programming error since Roy's Nair is the only Nair with reverse properties compared to everyone else who has that same Nair. Anyways, Chrom actually loses a lot of sour spot confirms that actually set up a lot of kills for Roy. Roy can combo off of sour aerials, which can extend a combo to a kill, such as sour up air and sour back air, as well as setting up for tech situations with his other sour aerials that can make a huge difference in closing out early stars. Chrom does not have that, which means he either has to start a kill confirm with a Nair 1 into a smash hack or tilt, or set up a jab into an F smash or back air, or get kills with a straight hit or grab. While it does give Chrom more consistency with his sword, the aerial drift sets up Roy and Chrom to be very close to their opponent, so regardless, most of Roy's hits will sweet spot, while Chrom has to act a lot more diligently on what to go for. As well as his poor air acceleration, Chrom's out of shield game is not strong at all. Roy's out of shield game can be very threatening since he can tank hits with a frame 4 armored up B out of shield, even though the hitbox actually comes out on frame 9. While Chrom's up B also has armor, the hitbox and armor both come out on frame 10, actually only making the move significantly worse as a DP option. Chrom's up B startup also only has a singular wide hitbox in front of him, then the hitbox does not come out again until the top and when Chrom is falling down, making his out of shield game significantly worse than Roy's, since Roy's can be used to stop approaching opponents from a good distance away. Even though Chrom and Roy are echoes, their similarities actually make Chrom significantly weaker in a lot of ways that makes Roy as strong as he is. Now, the big elephant in the room, the factor that holds this character back more than any other character, the worst recovery in the game. Now, let's talk about the other poor recoveries first. Little Mac, who is consistently joked on for his terrible recovery, can actually boost himself slightly in the air for an additional mix-up with his down air, and also can call out people swinging preemptively with his counter, which actually gives him a really big boost in distance. Not only that, but he has an up B and side B that snap the ledge with really good hitboxes. Ganondorf, who you could argue actually has a worse recovery than Max, still has a lot of options. He can cheese people with his side B for a stock trade. His up B has some of the craziest magnet hands in the game, making Ganon be able to go very, very low, calling people out who are trying to spike him or even edge guard him with a reverse up B or a reverse up air that can send at a very nasty angle. Not only that, Ganondorf can activate the hitbox on his up B that can catch people going for spikes on Ganon, while Chrom does not have any of that. Chrom's only recovery options are drifting to the ledge, air dodging to the ledge, double jumping to the ledge, or his fantastic up B that basically every character in the game has a consistent way to beat, even if you go for the sweet spot angle, which is also very predictable to read and is easily spiked, since Chrom actually does not have a hitbox on top of him, even though it's an up B with no hitbox above him on an upwards special. While Chrom does have super armor on the start of his up B, it actually ends as soon as he starts moving, and Chrom reaches his peak without a hitbox for a couple of frames. What makes this a lot worse is that this move doesn't even snap, ever. If you just time a hitbox at any position that Chrom has to travel or charge an F smash where he has to drift to, he's most likely dead. Chrom's up B is also not exactly like Ike's up B despite them being so similar. Chrom gets significantly less drift on his up B, whilst Ike can get a decent amount of drift on his already mediocre up B, which gets complemented with quick draw, which Chrom does also not have. Now, while the recovery is terrible, you can try to sweet spot it so it doesn't lose to most counters, but big hitboxes and spikes work a lot better against this variation. You could also try to go extremely high with his up B, but if your opponent parries it, they have enough time to do a frame 10 option, which is a lot of time for a lot of characters. They could also just, swatch you before you even get to keep going up, because you have no hitbox, and you are also not invincible. Lastly, you could try to space your up B from the ledge, but you leave yourself vulnerable to counters, and it gives your opponent a much easier angle to run off and throw in aerials, edge guard you. Strategies to edgeguard Chrom have only gotten better and better despite his rapid fall from the meta. While there are really strong Chrom players in the world such as TK3, Giddy, Mr. R, and Rivers, most of them have been seen to see significantly better results when switching other characters such as TK3 and Giddy to Roy, Mr. R to Sheik, and Rivers to Diddy. Chrom is also less likely to shine in top cuts of bracket due to most players knowing the Roy matchup due to his meta relevancy, which translates very well into knowing the Chrom matchup, especially when you understand how to deal with the recovery different from Roy. The character just gets outshined by everyone else and has one of the worst disadvantages in the game, making it impossible to come back to stage you're forced to up B, and if you have to use your double jump, even a slight tap makes your up B useless. Top players being more scared of running into Little Mac and Ganondorf in majors should really speak volume when Chrom's name is never brought up in the argument. I'd really like to be proven wrong, but Chrom is never going to be a scary character in bracket as long as someone can have the thought of throwing them off stage and automatically taking the set.